Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Goddess Revival Workshop. This is both an evening of learning and inspiration, and also an initiation for all of us into our sacred feminine energy. My name is Nicole Trombley. For those of you who don't know me, I am a priestess, I'm a healer, a medical intuitive specifically, and a Magdalene priestess specifically, and I am also a teacher and mistress of the divine feminine. So if you're not familiar with the divine feminine, you've come to the right place. You'll learn all about that this evening. So before we get started, I have a special guest on the line with us this evening. And so this workshop is all about the sacred feminine, but this workshop is also to introduce this Goddess Revival program. And it's also a community and congregation that I am conjuring this spring. And, you know, this is something I've had brewing in my womb cauldron for many years. And my soul and spirit has been guiding me to create this group for women, this container for women for many years. And I have done similar things, but what is coming through me this spring is entirely new and different, divinely led, inspired, and co-created. And I have the pleasure this evening of having a very dear friend and a client of mine, Grace, on the line. And she was a participant last year in the Goddess Revival program. And last year, the Goddess Revival was, it was really a test pilot. And I don't need to go into that now, but I'm going to give Grace the airwaves here for a couple of minutes for her to share her experience with you, simply because she has to go. Grace is a new mother and she has a class to get on to, but I want to give her the stage for 2 minutes to speak a little bit about the program last year, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, Grace.
Hi. Yeah, I'm very happy and excited to talk a little bit about my experience that whole last year of doing that workshop with you. You know, and I've always kind of been more of a holistic person too. I just never really knew how far you could get into it. And Nicole is just so natural in the way that she presents and teaches, and it was so approachable. So, and it just from the very moment that I met Nicole, we met kind of actually just through like business passings, and I could sense this energy about her, and I just like wanted to tell her my life story. I just like sat down next to her and I was like, can I confide something in you? And we just had an instant connection, and like I don't think it would have been appropriate if it had been anybody else. But throughout the entire year, we met once a month, and it was with a fantastic group of women who were in very different journeys of their life. But we all found common ground on the fact that we were women and we want to find this power within us. We want to discover this magic that we know something's brewing inside of us. We don't really know what to call it. We don't know how to show it to the world. We don't even know what to do with it for ourselves. At least that's my experience. And Nicole she just has this magical way of just knowing you and listening to you and finding a way to make you feel magical and to bring that out of you. So many of the times we'd met in some cabin in the woods, and it was just the perfect place. You know, we would go out hiking, we would have our own meditation times to do whatever things that we needed to do for us. And it was a perfect balance of working together, working with Nicole, but then also taking time to reflect into ourselves. I had a huge awakening after one of our meetings that actually made me feel a connection with my late parents. And it was a very grounding experience. And I don't think I would have achieved that had I just been going about life myself. So I can honestly say that my life is much better having Nicole in it, as a priestess, as a guide, even as a friend. She's just an amazing person. And I cannot recommend working with her, knowing her, being in her workshops. I cannot recommend it enough. You'll definitely see me throughout the workshop as well. And I'm a permanent in her life. That's my choice. She doesn't have a choice. So, but yes.
Aw, thank you, my friend. You look radiant, by the way. It's good to see your face. Aw, thank you so much, Grace. We'll be in touch. Mwah. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay, ladies. All right, so let's begin. I'm going to share my screen and off we go. So let's see here. Oops. Okay. Whoops. Let's see. Okay, ladies, the Goddess Revival. We are here this evening to talk about reawakening the primal, wild, sensual energy of your sacred feminine energy. So again, tonight is going to be both a powerful gathering and workshop, as well as a reinitiation into your sacred feminine energy. Reinitiation, because this is something that is innate and born, innate within us, something we're born with, but something that for most of us, most women and men, gets lost as we get older. So many of you have heard of this term, the rise of the divine feminine. And the rise of the divine feminine is a prophecy, basically, that has been foretold by many civilizations for many, many years. And the time is now. I believe that the rise of the divine feminine officially began last December around the solstice, when Jupiter and Saturn both moved into the sign of Aquarius. So different people have different opinions about that. I believe that the rise of the divine feminine is happening now. I will talk a little bit more about what I mean by that in just a second. So I've already introduced myself, for those of you who don't know me. My story is a really interesting one. I have a lot of really interesting trials and tribulations and trauma in my life, and have since the very beginning. I don't talk about these things as much, but I'm going to start talking about them more because, if you really knew my story, and if you really knew some of the things that I've battled, I'm a true miracle. I really am. And the fact that I have the life that I do and that I am the way that I am is really a miracle. I've been through a lot, and it's not been easy. When I was in I would say my healing journey began in my early 20s when I hit bottom. I was in college, right at the end of college, and I completely and utterly hit bottom. And again, that's a longer story for a different workshop. But suffice to say that for 20 years, I've been on the healing journey doing all kinds of things, from religion to 12-step program, to therapy, to acupuncture, to naturopathic doctors. And, I've struggled with just about everything, from hormonal issues to mental illness to, all the things that you can read on this list. And, all of those things that I just mentioned were exponentially helpful for me in their own way. But I found, just a few years ago, after my daughter was born, she's 7 now, I found that despite all of what I just mentioned, and in the healing journey that I had, and all of the time, energy, and resources that I had put into my healing journey, that, in my late 30s, I still felt tired and exhausted. I still felt lackluster. I didn't feel, I had no sexual energy whatsoever. I didn't think that would ever come back to me. And I didn't feel fulfilled in my life, and I certainly didn't feel abundant. And, as a person who not only is in this business, but also has spent so many time and resources within 20 years, it was mind-boggling to me why I still felt in this, similar sort of place that I couldn't get out of. And a few years back, a few teachers actually introduced me to this concept of the divine feminine, or healing the feminine part of myself. And at first I had no clue what that meant. I'm a female, right? Don't I have this inherent female energy? It turns out that what I've learned is that most of us, especially women, are so disconnected to our feminine energy. It's a big problem. Let's move on here. So let me explain a little bit more about what I'm talking about when I mean feminine energy. Feminine energy, or the divine feminine, rather, is God. It is the feminine aspect of God. And if you're like me, you've been raised and taught and bred on this idea that God is a man, And that's it. And there's really no place for women in the spiritual community, not the same level as men. And when I was a child, this was one of my very earliest and very most damaging traumas. I came into this world wanting to be a priestess. I wanted to serve God. I wanted to be, an open vessel. And from the moment I tried to do that as a very young child, the church told me no. And so this is really what's missing from society in a big way, is the feminine aspect. And, there's a reason for that, which I'm not going to get into today, but removing the feminine from the spiritual picture allowed the powers that be to really control, exploit, and manipulate people for a very long time. And essentially that's what's been happening for the last 2000 years. So the rise of the divine feminine is this prophecy that tells that when women start to wake up, and when women start to take the throne of their own divinity and their own power, the world and the planet will start to shift. And we are in that time now. To go back one step for a minute, of all the things that I've done in my life for my healing journey on all levels of my being, there has been nothing more healing, regenerative, and powerful than healing my sacred feminine energy. And I'm going to talk about that throughout. So if this is something that's new to you, listen close. And I really believe that this is a message for all of us. I've not met one woman in my practice, in my friendship circle, and in my passing by that doesn't need a little dose of the divine feminine. So, okay, back to the divine feminine. Divine feminine is the feminine aspect of God, and let's think about this for a minute. The God that I knew as a very young child even would never choose a gender for itself. God is so beyond masculine or feminine. It would never choose to identify that way and leave one out more than the other, because that creates hierarchy and favoritism. My God doesn't do that. Actually, the God really doesn't do that. Divine feminine is also an energy or an essence. And so we all have this feminine energy within us. We also have masculine energy within us. And this isn't a gender issue. This is basically just the polarity of energy within every human being on earth. And I'm going to talk more about that. The divine feminine is also ancient. And so I want to mention that prior to the dawn of the patriarchal religions, which are Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, those three meaning that they honor and worship one male deity. Okay, so prior to the dawn of those religions sort of taking over, prior to that, for 200,000 years, what we know is that God was worshipped as female. And this can be proven through archaeological studies and history and sociology, and pretty much this isn't hard to find, and the reason for that was because, what the ancients knew was that the earth and the cosmos birthed in a feminine blueprint. And so if you study quantum physics, or if you study, astrology or the cosmos at all, what you'll learn is that black holes literally have almost a womb effect to themselves, where in the middle of the black hole births spirit into matter, which is kind of profound. And so if you think about that, these black holes and these other entities in the cosmos are literally creating galaxies. And the ancients knew this. And so for 200,000 years, they worshiped females, and they worshiped the womb, and they worshiped the ideology and the cosmology around the feminine, because they believed and knew that, that the earth and the cosmos worked in this feminine blueprint. It's also an awakening. So we've already talked about that and what the rise of the divine feminine means. Why now? Because this is the time. Life has gotten really crazy in the last few years, and I'm not going to go too much into my psychic oracular abilities tonight, but what I can tell you is there are still big changes coming, and we are not out of the woods yet. If you thought that the world was getting weird now, just wait. There's definitely more to come. Now is the time. Life is very short. If you are not living in your fullest expression, doing what you love, making money doing it, and having, everything you want in your life, there is no time to waste. Okay, truly, there is no time to waste. So the rise of the divine feminine equals the return of the queens. This is a group of women that were part of this was part of the women who were part of the Goddess Revival last year, in one of our many, many hikes and adventures into the woods. here's a little bit more for those of you who are new to this concept of masculine and feminine energy. So feminine energy is intuitive, it's sensual, it's passive, it's collaborative. You know, the feminine energy within all of us is more about feeling rather than thinking. It focuses on the body rather than the mind, which is more forward in the masculine. Most of us have a really hard time just being and relaxing, especially as women. Most of us are more fully aligned with the masculine energy. We know how to think well. We know how to work hard. We know how to do. We know how to think until it makes us sick and crazy. We know how to take action. We know how to be independent. You know, we know, again, at the bottom there, where it says physical and mental, you know, we are multidimensional beings, and we have 4 aspects: mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And as far as our society is concerned, you know, we tend in our society to focus on just the body and the brain. We don't give a whole lot of light and awareness and attention to the spiritual and emotional aspect. And that's what's caused us to be so ridiculously out of balance, not only in our society, but in the world at large. So again, this isn't necessarily at all, well, no, this isn't at all about gender. This is about reconciling these energies within you. And so if you're looking for wholeness, balance, and awakening and enlightenment, the goal is then to merge your masculine and feminine energy, to merge your light and dark, to come to balance your polarities so that you are in perfect harmony and balance. And for most of us, you know, that's not too easy because we become so over-identified with our masculine energy. We don't know how to relax. We don't know how to collaborate. You know, we're not listening to our bodies. We'll talk more about that. So some other, shall we say, shadow aspects of the feminine. And what I mean by that is this is what happens when we are disconnected to our feminine energy. We feel like a victim. We become codependent. We feel or become insecure. We are manipulative. We are passive, too passive. We let people walk all over us. We say, you know, yes when we mean no, and no when we mean yes. We lack boundaries. We become overly emotional. We feel like our emotions are either in charge of us, or we're so afraid of our emotions that we repress them and we don't have access to that energy. When also we become inauthentic and sometimes cruel. And so, you know, I know that I identify with a lot of that, and I did for a really long time. But that's what happens when we have wounds in our feminine. And again, this isn't, you know, to criticize. This is pretty much all of us, truly. And to make light of that, this is medicine that all of us need. So this is just reiterating my point. This is what life looks like without the divine feminine. You know, it's like, hey, shut up and be a good girl, you know, and do as you're told and don't make any him-ha. But this is what results, is that we become a dormant society of women who are ineffective, both in our families and our workplaces. And we end up, you know, feeling resentful and angry, whether it's subconscious or unconscious, because we're not getting what we need, and we're certainly not getting what we want. And we become frustrated with the world around us that is dictating to us how we should look, how we should feel, how we should behave. You know, and there is this constant message to all of us women that we need to conform to some sort of ideal in society to be accepted or wanted or capable. And that really, ladies, is what I'm challenging here this night. I'm absolutely done with this paradigm. And it's time for us women to take the throne of our divinity and come into our truth and be who we really are. So what do we do? How do we begin? So this is a very short list of just some of the things that can start to awaken this innate energy that you have within you. So, you know, again, for this evening, we're going to focus on the part of the divine feminine that is this divine energy within us. So yes, it is God, but we're going to take this time to really focus on each of us as individuals and how we're affected by this imbalance. So, you know, some of these things, if you're looking at them, these are really difficult for most women. I know for me, when I was introduced to the divine feminine and reconciling this energy within me, that was the first suggestion that my teacher gave me, was to play more. And it was really difficult. I had a really hard time being in the moment and spontaneous with my children, rather than having some sort of idea or plan or, next thing that I was thinking about. And it was startling to me that, and I could just go down this list with you, we're going to talk more about some of these things, but I was startled at how difficult some of these things were for me. And I understood very quickly that I was missing a huge part of myself, a huge part of my wholeness, and a huge part of my power and magic. And I can honestly tell you that now that I feel, not fully embodied in my feminine energy, I mean, it ebbs and flows every day, just like anything else. But, I really believe that, the radiance that you all feel in me and experience with me, and people meet me and they always say that, you're filled with so much energy and light and radiance. I am telling you right now, it comes from my feminine energy. Okay, it doesn't come from the part of me that knows how to follow the rules and go get shit done. I mean, I'm good at that too, believe me. I am an Aquarian sun. I am a left brain mess. I love to analyze and think too much, so this is sort of my story. If the divine feminine can help me, it can help anybody, trust me. So we're going to talk a little bit more about these. And so also, I mentioned at the beginning that ultimately this evening, I'm sharing this on behalf of this congregation of women that I'm starting later in May called the Goddess Revival. And throughout the year and through various different practices and meetings and circles, we will deal with every single thing on this list and much, much more. So let's take some time to just talk a little bit more about these things. So first and foremost, embodiment. This is something I find that all women struggle with at some point in their life, no matter what. And again, this comes down to the fact that we live in a society that doesn't accept us for who we are, right? Because the world at large makes a lot of money on the fact that most of us don't like ourselves, and that we spend a lot of time, money, and resources trying to be different, trying to look different, trying to fit into this, size or, this concept or paradigm. Embodiment is really difficult as a woman. So essentially what my definition of embodiment is the practice of being present inside your body and enjoying it. This is a cornerstone of healing for us ladies. If you can be inside your body and enjoy it, you are at the top pinnacle % of most women in the world. It is a true gift to love and accept your body as it is, and to commune with your body in a deep way that allows and facilitates deep healing. I have found, and I've done a lot of healing work with individuals, with groups, corporate wellness, and in the integrative oncology space. And one thing that I find is that, for those of you that are dealing with chronic issues or health issues, this is first and foremost. If there is any sort of dissonance or disconnect, disgust, rebellion that you have with your body, that is immediately creating a block energetically between the miraculous healing powers that are within you and around you. If you feel like your body is failing or not good enough or dysfunctional, it's going to be really hard for you to allow things within and around you that could be supportive and healing. And I hope that makes sense. Your body is absolutely a temple. It houses, regardless of what your body looks like or how it is functioning right now, or what disease or chronic issues you may be dealing with, it is your rodeo this lifetime. It is your vessel for the spirit within you. And it is the most holy temple that you have, and it plagues me that most women spend more time and energy, filling up their closets than they do on their actual body temple. And so this is a cornerstone of the program. This was my story for many, many years. I was always fit and athletic, and I always took really good care of myself. And I thought that was good enough, but in those last few years that I was describing earlier, when I felt, lackluster and disconnected and unfulfilled, what I realized is that I didn't have a deep connection to my body. I mean, I did more than most people, but at the same time, my trauma and wounds were getting in the way of me taking care of my body on a deeper level. For example, I was a runner, a competitive runner for many years, and I ran Division I track and cross country in college, and running was an absolute lifestyle for me. And I ran many marathons, within the last 10 years, 6 marathons to be exact in the last 10 years. And, at a certain point when I finally started working with my feminine energy and I started listening to my body and hearing that intuitive nature of myself, the first thing my body said was, we need to stop running. We're over it, like you've done this for 25 years. We're ready for something different. And that was truly an ignition for me that opened me up spiritually to so many other things, because I received and reclaimed so much time, energy, and resources from all the running I was doing for other things. And I can honestly tell you, I have never been better, felt better. I have never been healthier, and my body has never been more radiant until I stopped exercising as much as I did. So that's first and foremost. If you have any issues that, if you don't feel like your body is a temple, and if you have this disconnection, this is really important for all of us to explore and heal that. And you would be absolutely amazed at what happens in your life when you do just this simple thing, and making peace with your body, loving and accepting your body exactly how it is now. And as you can see here, and also this is a cornerstone of physical healing. So again, if you are dealing with any type of chronic conditions or issues or disease, this is really at the top of the list. You can see at the bottom there, those are my favorite ways of embodiment practices. Looking at yourself in the mirror. If you have a hard time doing that, that's a telltale sign that this is work that you need. This is medicine that you need. Any type of body work or massage or hands-on healing is also really beneficial. Just getting to know your body and making peace with it are going to have enormous benefits for you. Also, I forgot to mention, if you ladies have any questions or want to pop something into the chat, please do that. I'll take a look out, or I'll keep watching for any questions or comments in there. The next thing we're going to talk about is womb awakening. And so this might be a new concept to most of you, but womb awakening is basically, practices to connect and heal this deep seated energy center within your body. So the womb, or, also known as the sacral chakra, but for all intents and purposes, we're just going to call it the womb this evening. Most of us women have a really hard time with this area of our body. Most of us women have hormonal imbalance or womb grief, infertility, miscarriage. We loathe our moon cycles and our menses. We don't look forward to it. We've been taught that it's a nuisance and it's something to be loathed. And that's a problem. That's a problem, because ultimately, and honestly, I really feel it's the disgust and the disconnect from the sacred feminine and from our bodies that creates these issues in our womb space. Again, as I mentioned, so, the womb is a holy center. Why? Because, and as women, we are unique in this way. Now, again, men and women both have wombs. For men, we call them haras. So they also have an energetic womb space that we treat sort of the same way in these practices. But as physical women, we have an unusual and amazing holy gift of birthing spirit into matter. And I just want you all to just think about that. Think about that for one moment. I have the ability to birth spirit, something that is out here, into matter, something that's here. That is an absolute superpower. And the ancients knew this, and this is why, the ancients worshiped women and worshiped the females and worshiped, the red tents and the feminine god, because they knew that this was a holy, sacred power. Even doctors can't explain fully the process of birth. I mean, we know a lot about the process of birth, but we don't know exactly that moment that it takes place. It's quite remarkable, actually. So when we connect to this, and again, most women, we carry a lot of trauma in this place. So many of you have had the experience of being in a yoga class and, doing hip openers, and all of a sudden, you're bawling your eyes out. This center holds a lot of trauma for all of us, both individually and collectively. So when we begin to dive into this as a practice, a lot comes out and a lot comes up. And through these practices, we gain freedom, we gain authenticity, we gain our power back, and we reinitiate ourselves into this holy power that we have to birth spirit into matter, even if it's not children. Even if you are a business person, even if you're an artist, even if you're a teacher or a mother, even if you're not birthing physical children anymore, that remains a holy center to birth your ideas, to birth your solutions, to birth anything and everything. It comes from that place. Also from the mysticism and the spiritual world of manifestation. The womb is a holy center for that. When your womb is open and clear and aligned, you begin to magnetize everything and everyone to you that you need. It's pretty remarkable. And I'm experiencing this in my own life. I'm happy to share more about that with you later. We're going to talk a lot more about womb awakening. And we're also, I should have mentioned this first, but these 3 things that we're talking about this evening, we're going to do a practice at the end that encompasses all of them, both embodiment, womb awakening, and the thing that we're going to talk about next. So, first and foremost, for all of you who are beginners to womb awakening, the first thing that you can do is just to make connection with this place. Just put your hands on your womb for a few minutes every day and just begin to feel the energy taking place there. For most of us women, we feel numb down there. And that's a problem, because if you feel numb anywhere in your body, that's creating disconnection, and it's creating resistance of the energy flow within your body. Okay. And so this is imperative. This is truly, it's important for every last woman on earth. So make connection. All feminine practices will help you with your womb. Also, just beginning to honor your cycles. And, regardless of how you feel, maybe you don't have your cycle anymore. You can do this by honoring the cycles in nature. It is no coincidence that a woman's menstrual cycle is the same amount of time in its normalcy, I should say, as the moon. That's why most women call it their moon cycle. So just beginning to align yourself with nature will also help to bring your body back into balance, both physically, hormonally, and spiritually as well. Okay, next and lastly, we're going to talk about pleasure. So again, I picked 3 things this evening to talk about that I thought women struggle with the most. I feel like women struggle with embodiment because most of us are disconnected and hate our bodies. Most of us have no concept of, or even think twice about our womb, other than the, trauma and inconvenience that it causes us. And lastly, pleasure. I find that so many women are so disconnected to pleasure. Quite frankly, most of us don't have time for it, or we don't have the energy for it. And so we lose out. Men do a really good job of prioritizing their pleasure. They're not as emotionally connected to their pleasure. And so it's much easier for men to get off on something. For women, it's a lot more difficult because we have all this, we need to be courted, and, we need to feel good about ourselves and about the other things. And pleasure goes well beyond just having sexual relations. Pleasure is enjoying your food. It's being able to sit in nature for 10 minutes and just enjoy, what's around you. It's the ability to sit and play and be in the moment and to experience bliss as a result of that. But again, most women don't have time and energy for that. And we are missing a huge part of our magic as a result. So, pleasure ultimately comes down to, and again, my definition of it is allowing yourself to feel good, especially inside your body. God created us this way, ladies. God gave us these beautiful bodies and all of these pleasure centers. I've been studying, I'm having my own sexual awakening and studying womb awakening at the same time. And I'm learning that, we have all of these sexual centers, the sexual energy centers within our body, beyond just what we might know or have been taught. And you don't even hear about this. We don't even talk about it and have access to it. And also because most religions have made pleasure a sin. They've taken this completely out of the equation. They've made our bodies, you know, garbage. And that is not okay, nor is that what God intended. Do you think God would give us these bodies and then say, sorry, you can't use them that way? It just isn't so. And the divine feminine wishes to reconcile this with all of you and with me. And that pleasure is our God-given right. When we feel good, everything in our life works out. You can't manifest and magnetize from a place of discontent, resentment, exhaustion. You can't do it. It's not possible from a quantum physical perspective. Okay, so pleasure is like this gateway of magic. Okay, and it's this gateway of healing. And if you can just find ways in your body to feel pleasure, so many things will take place for you. Healing on all levels, you know, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. If you are new to this concept, or you've been disconnected from pleasure for a long time, the first thing that I will tell you to do is to become more sensual. And basically what that means is engaging all of your senses. It's bringing all 5 of your senses fully online and in the moment. So if I'm sitting in this room, and we'll do this in a little bit, I'll give you an example of what I mean, but you know, noticing what you see, noticing what you smell, noticing the taste of the air and how the breeze feels on your skin, you know, and taking the time to really feel into your environment and feel into your body, feel into your food, feel into your bath, feel into your exercise or the conversation, whatever it is. You know, we are so disconnected with, you know, being attached to this technological mother that doesn't actually support us. It really doesn't. We think it does, and we long for this connection that many of us are seeking, and yet, you know, that technological mother will fail us every time. And so coming back into our bodies and what's real and present for us and our senses can be enormously healing. Also, you know, inviting beauty, luxury, and indulgence into your life. This is why I build altars all over the place, you know, and I spend time setting up my space first before anything else, because I like to look at beautiful things, you know, and your environment should be pleasing to you. You know, picking flowers and putting them on your desk, buying flowers for yourself, incorporating beauty into everything that you do is a wonderful way to invite the feminine into your life and into your work. Also, more orgasms. So we're not going to take a lot of time to talk about this, but I will share this one story. A few years ago, and this was right around the time when I was just introduced to the divine feminine, my family and I went to this fire walk ceremony, and it was totally profound. And I met a woman there who was much older than I. She was easily like in her early 60s. And we met, and she finally, you know, we were talking back and forth, and she told me her age, and I actually didn't believe her. I was like, wow, you look amazing. What is your secret? And she looked at me square in the eye, clear as day, and said, well, I've committed to having an orgasm every other day. And I thought, wow, I don't feel like doing that, but that's something to think about, you know? And there's really something to that. There is all kinds of science and bodies of work to exemplify just how anti-aging sexual energy is. And I want to take a moment also to explain that, you know, sexual energy is one of the most it is definitively the most powerful energy on earth. Why? Because it births spirit into matter. It creates life. And so this is why sexual energy is so exploited. It's so exploited, and it's so abused, and it's manipulated in a way that it's become dark, you know, and I'm talking about the porn industry and child abuse and child sex trafficking and the multi-billion-dollar businesses and webs around the planet that source this evil nature around the manipulation and exploitation of sexual energy. The reason for that is because it's so powerful, and dark entities will use this energy to create power and money and other things on their behalf. So many people on earth right now are actually using sexual energy this way. And so the only thing that can really heal that is for most of us to take up the mantle of our own sexual energy and say, no longer am I willing to just pass this off as something either not important or not possible. So a lot more on that later. Any questions so far, ladies? Let me check here and see if there's anything coming up in the chat. Okay, so we're going to go back to this. In a few minutes, we're going to share a very powerful experience. We're going to do a little heart womb ceremony together and a little transmission with Mary Magdalene. And but before we do that, I want to take a few minutes and just talk a little bit more about this program that I'm starting. So again, some of you have heard this before, but this has never been, the Goddess Revival this year is something unlike anything I've ever done. It is truly for women, by women. I wish to create a sacred congregation of women who are interested in taking up the throne of their queendom, bringing power, pleasure, and leadership back to women so that we can go into our lives, into our families and our communities, into our jobs and workplaces, and be the queens that we have decided, or that we are meant to be. So the Goddess Revival is truly an elemental journey of shamanic rebirth. I have a lot more to say about that, but for right now, I'm going to keep it very simple. And I'll tell you more about how the program works in a minute. But at the end of this program, you will feel more authentic. You will know much more about yourself and your desires, your wounds than you ever have before. You'll be able to use this information for your highest good in creating the life, the relationships that you ultimately desire. You will feel more peace with your body. You will experience more healing in your physical body. You will feel more aligned with your cycles, both within your body and in nature. And I have to tell you, when you're aligned with nature, you feel like you have the whole earth and universe at your back. And you feel totally supported by the energies around you. And you can feel like you do anything. I mean, those of you who know my life right now and what I'm going through, that's, a story for another day. But part of my faith and part of my resiliency comes from the fact that I do feel and am so aligned with these healing energies around me. And I spend so much time in nature. It restores me and nourishes me. And we have a very mutually beneficial relationship. I want to teach all of you how to do that, how to harness the power of the moon and the power of the elements and the power of the seasons to work on your behalf, to love, support, and guide you in all you do. You will also feel connected more than you ever have with God or goddess, goddess being the feminine form of God. I like to say God just because that's what comes out easiest for me. And when I say that, I don't mean, masculine or feminine, it's just God. But I do believe that most of us are very spiritually disconnected. And again, when you're spiritually connected, anything and everything is possible for you. And if you feel, I guess one way of knowing if you are spiritually connected is, do you rely on your spiritual allies? Do you believe that God is there for you? Do you believe and have faith that no matter what you're going through, it's supposed to be and that you'll be okay? If you don't, there's probably a lack there of connection. And again, no wonder most of us feel disconnected spiritually, whether it be through our religious upbringing or just from spirituality not really taking the forefront in society today. Last but not least, not last and not least, but the last thing I'll mention here is that at the end, you will feel guided and empowered towards your divine purpose. Some of you know what your divine purpose is. Some of you don't. Some of you are walking a path that you think might be right, but you may be surprised that God has different plans for you. I never thought that God would want me to be teaching sexual healing and embodiment. This was not something that I grew up thinking that I would do. I grew up thinking perhaps that I would be a spiritual mentor. But what God has told me is this is the work, Nicole. This is what women need to know. This is what's going to help save humanity from the mess that it's in. And you're the one to do it. So again, regardless of where you are in your own divine purpose, you will have a much clearer picture of where you are and also the pathway to that by the end of this program. So basically, the Goddess Revival is a year-long journey, and we work through nature and seasonal cycles, as well as the moon cycles. And these are the various topics that we're going to address throughout the season. So in the spring, it's all about getting to know who we are, deprogramming ourselves from our wounding and from what society tells us who and what we should be. Then we move on to the summer, which is self-healing. And this is where we start to activate some of our gifts. We start to understand just how powerful we are. We come into our bodies. We talk about sister wounds and the disconnect that we have, not only with ourselves, but with other women, and the misogyny that many of us do experience, whether this is a conscious experience or whether this is an unconscious experience. It's something we all as women deal with. We will also go into the inner child and do some inner child healing and work, as well as sexual healing and working with our sexual energy. The fall is all about self-empowerment. It's calling upon our guides and guardians. It is releasing the energy within us that no longer serves us. It's touching on our shadow and understanding the parts of us that keep us stuck, self-sabotaged, addicted, shameful. We're going to go to all of these places together as a community. And in the winter, we will end with soul power, which is really all about you coming into your soul, your soul's calling. And you will be rebirthed into an enormously brand new, updated form by next spring. So this is how we do it. I'm glad my pictures are showing up here, but basically this is a congregation, ladies. So at the very least, well, this is how we do it. And I'm going to go into this further. Classes, retreats, circles, ceremonies, and weekly content. So this is 3 basic levels of how you can participate. The basic level is content only. So this is what it costs just to be a member. And every week you'll receive an email from me on Monday morning. It's going to be brief and to the point, and it will touch on one of those topics that I just showed you. So I will share my experience with that practice, and I will also give you simple practices for womb awakening, connecting with nature, sexual healing, womb awakening, embodiment, all of those things. Each week will also have a longer practice. We will connect in a private online community. We'll have a monthly online full moon circle. We will do all kinds of oracle readings and divination, and so much more, and so much more. And so I really hope that, again, each and every one of you consider at the very least doing this, because you will receive so much. Everything that we've talked about this evening will be delivered to your inbox once a week. And so you have the ability to work on these things alone in the privacy of your own home or wherever you choose to do that. And if you choose to connect with the community, you'll have the ability to do that as well in the private community. Next, and this is my favorite. So the Goddess Revival group that I did last year was essentially this. We will have 9 circles throughout the year, and you can see the dates here. Each of them is aligned with a sacred date, whether it's a high holiday, the equinox, or the solstice, or with the moon cycle. And we will travel through our entire chakra system. We'll also do some goddess ideology, but these are going to be a lot of fun. So basically, we will spend a whole day together. And I want you to look at these circles as pure nourishment for the body and the soul. And so each of these, and I also, I call them circles, but they're really more like retreats, where you come and you spend the day, and I will feed you a really delightful, nourishing, healthy meal and juices and, indulgent, healthy things that we hardly ever make for ourselves. There will be a workshop of some kind or some sort of learning that takes place, as well as a practice. So we might do Kundalini yoga. We might do sound healing. We might do some womb awakening practices. And often, these will be taught by myself and the women in the circle. So again, I'm really creating a congregation here, ladies. And my goal here is that if you are a healer or a practitioner, that you might be one of the women offering your wisdom in these circles and your experience and strength and hope. So this is a really wonderful way to participate. You don't have to come to all of them. So, you can put them on your calendar and come to the ones that interest you once I have the content a little more downloaded and available. But these are going to be really potent portals and transmissions, and a really wonderful way for all of us to get together in the flesh, and for you to be surrounded, nurtured, loved, and supported by other women like yourself who are just like you and on this journey. Next, the goddess membership basically includes all of the above, or all of what I just discussed, but you'll also have the opportunity to have a goddess pod. And these will be no more than 4 people. You'll meet with these women, 3 to 4 hours a month, and probably have a smaller sort of follow-up. Again, you will meet with these women once a month throughout the entire duration of the program, which is 11 months. And, I can't say enough about these groups. I really can't. When I was younger, in my early 20s, and I was in an interesting, the very beginning of my healing journey, a therapist that I had at a time created a group of 4 women and invited me to be a part of it. And it was a therapeutic group, right? And so basically what we did was we got together, we talked about our stuff, and we had the ability to share and talk about things and also call each other out on our shit. I don't know, ladies, if you have a place in your life where you congregate with other women calling you out on your shit. It is one of the most healing and therapeutic experiences you will ever have. I actually did that group for 7 years. I met with these women once a week for 3 hours for 7 years. And it was some of the most, it was one of the most healing experiences that I ever had. And so I can't speak to this enough, that this is, if you're really in a transition or in a place where you really feel like you need support and love around you, I can't suggest that enough. So also, there's going to be lots of other bonuses too. I have a very close connection to the forest down in Farmington, as many of you know. I'm going to be going down there quite a bit, and the forest is telling me that I need to bring, I need to bring my circles down there. So we will go down for the day. We'll have forest ceremonies. And as you can see, there are other things here too. There'll be other ways to participate alongside the content and the community of this program. So I hope that let's see, I think we're at the end. Yeah. Cheers. We begin at the end of May. If any of you have any more questions about that, I invite us to have a conversation. Again, I really believe this is the medicine that all women need. If you're watching this and you know any other women in your life that you think need this medicine, please, please do share this with them. There has never been a more important time for us to take up this throne, ladies. Okay, so let's go back to our ceremony page here. And again, let me just double check and make sure we're in a good spot. Okay. All right. So now, ladies, what we're going to do and how we're going to end this evening is we're going to do like a 10 or 15 minute meditation, energy healing, and initiation of our sacred feminine energy. So on a previous slide, maybe some of you have caught this, I didn't mention it, but one of the first things that we can do on this path is to invite the divine feminine to us and invite her within us and allow her to work her magic beyond our human comprehension. So this evening, that's what we're going to do. We're going to call in our guides and guardians. I will be sharing some energy healing to each of you. And again, whether you're here presently or whether you're watching the replay, it doesn't matter. So I want you all to, you can stay in a seated position, or if you're in a place, at home comfortably where you can lie down, that would be good too. You can feel free to stop your video and get nice and quiet and find a good spot. And the first thing that we're going to do, ladies, is we're going to allow our bodies to settle. And we're going to come into a place of stillness. And you can keep your eyes open or closed, but I like to close my eyes during these experiences because it helps me to, when I close my eyes down, it helps me to shut off my thinking mind. And it helps me come into a more embodied place of feeling. So that's the first step. So wherever you are right now, just go ahead and close your eyes down. And bring your attention and your awareness to your breath. And just take a few moments to really feel your breath moving through your body. And I want you to put your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your womb. And I invite you all to take a moment, bringing your attention and awareness to these spaces within you. Just allow yourself to feel the energy there. So under your left hand, you might feel the beat of your heart, the vibration of your heart. And just taking a moment to notice and connect to this very powerful center. Next, I want you to bring your attention and awareness to your right hand and the womb underneath it. And just begin to notice how you feel in this part of yourself. What do you feel? And again, we're just noticing with love and curiosity, nothing more. And just taking this time out of your day to connect deeply with your body. You are a divine being. God made you in its likeness. That means you have spiritual God energy within you. You have all the same superpowers as God to create, to manifest, to dissolve. So taking a moment to really honor this sacred holy power within you, this ability to create spirit or create, to turn spirit into matter. So we open up this practice by taking this time to connect with heaven within us. And then from your womb space, I want you to grow a cord from this part of yourself down out through your roots, through the chair, wherever you're sitting or lying down, through the floor of your house or the building that you're in, into the earth beneath you. And take this cord all the way down to the center of the earth, to Mother Gaia, the feminine aspect of God. And with your breath, bring this energy up into your body, into your womb, into all the other places and spaces, into your cells and systems. And taking a moment to really enjoy this exchange. Find pleasure in your ability to invite healing, powerful energies into your body. Feeling connected, grounded, and secure. And then making that connection with your heart under your left hand. And from your heart, growing a cord up through your crown chakra, the top of your head, spiraling up into the heavens above. All the way up into the black, infinite space of the cosmos. The holy womb, the dark womb. Again, with your breath, inviting this holy energy into the form of your being, taking a moment to enjoy this connection and allow it to feel good and holy inside of you. And now that we have connected with the divinity within us and our bodies, heaven and earth, and we've taken a moment to connect to heaven and earth outside of us, lastly, we're going to connect with heaven and earth around us. So I want you to imagine this beautiful circle around you and all of your spiritual guides and guardians, angels and ascended masters and ancestors who wish to be of service to you. And of course, the energy of the holy, sacred feminine descending upon you like a dove of peace, surrounding you in this loving energy, this congregation of spiritual allies that are here to cheer you on and support you on this journey. And taking a moment just to connect to their presence. And now that we have connected to these spiritual energies within and around us, I want you to bring your attention back to your womb space underneath your right hand. I want you to imagine that this rose, this beautiful pink rose, blooms up and out of your pelvic bowl, rising up and out and blossoming and blooming. And we welcome Mary Magdalene on your left, and Jesus on your right, tending to this sacred garden within you and enabling this seeding, this blossoming to take place alongside your intention. I'm going to chant a sacred mantra. I'll say it out loud first, and then we'll chant it 10 times together. And most of you are muted or watching this in the replay, so I want you to use the power of your own voice. This is also another practice and good medicine of sacred feminine energy. It's using our voice for clear communication, clear intention, boundaries, discernment. It's very, very important. So I encourage all of the women in my circle and my clients to use their voice, to feel the vibration of your voice moving through your body. And so the mantra we're going to say today is Mane Padme Hum. Om Mane Padme Hum. So you can either just listen to my voice or you can say it out loud with me, but we're going to repeat it 10 times while we're just allowing this rose to blossom, allowing our spiritual support team to take care of us, support and nourish us, and to allow the magic and activation of our own voice to awaken this sacred energy within us. Om Mane Padme Hum. 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 And with these words, there is this enormous waterfall of love and compassion flowing into your heart and womb space, congregating around these areas and then flowing into every cell of your being, allowing this love and compassion to awaken you to your greatest expression, fullest expression, and inviting the sacred feminine energy to ignite and awaken within you. Taking this last moment with your hands still on your body to thank your body to thank your soul for bringing you here this evening again, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. Just taking a moment to honor yourself for doing this work, for being willing, and for the powerful invitation that you just initiated. When you feel complete in this practice, you can take a moment, reconnecting with your feet or your seat, reconnecting with the outline of your body and the boundary between you and the rest of the room. And inviting yourself to come back to a more conscious place. And so, ladies, I want to take this time to thank each and every one of you for taking this sacred time out of your day to initiate and awaken this energy within you, to learn a little bit more about your sacred feminine energy. I invite each and every one of you into my sacred congregation this year. There is much magic afoot. This year has never been a better time. So if you have any questions, or if there's something really special or interesting that happened for you during that transmission, I would love to hear more about it. For right now, I'm going to end this recording, and we will reconvene at another time. But I just want to thank each and every one of you from the deepest of my heart. This is a powerful year, and I look forward to communing with all of you and supporting you on your journey. So have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from me soon. Lots of love to all of you. Blessings and take care.